Do you struggle writing a good motivation letter? Is there a university you really want to join, but you don't know how to write the best letter so they would accept you? It's normal. It's difficult to write a good motivation letter. It takes time, and we didn't learn much about it at school. So in today's video, I will give you some tips on how to do it. First, I will explain you what's the purpose of a motivation letter and how important it is. Second, I will share with you what you should do before you actually do the letter. So you should investigate your background, your future long-term goals. Then you should investigate the university in the research labs, research groups that they have, and then you should link all this together. Third, I will share with you the template I use for my motivation letter. And finally, I will tell you what you should avoid to do when you are doing the letter. What things you should not put in it. And if there is a specific section you would like to see, I put in the description the different times, or also in the first comment. A good motivation letter is about knowing who you are, what you did in the past, and who you want to become, and how the university will allow you to become this person. Your dream should not be to join the university. You should have a dream that is here. Today you are here, and to reach this dream, you have to go to this university. The university is a path to the dream. It's not the dream. Otherwise, you don't have it clear in your mind. You should have a dream after the university. The motivation letter is also supposed to show that you already know who you want to work with, that you have plans, and that you know what you want to get out of joining this university. So in the motivation letter, you will speak about your motivations, that makes sense, about your background, about your long-term goals, about how joining the university will help you to reach them. And the motivation letter is really important because if you are a good student, get good grades, the thing that will differentiate you from other good students and to show that you are outstanding is the motivation letter. So you have to work hard on it and to write a good one. Don't write quickly in 1 hour and send it. It will not be good. The first step to do before you actually start writing is to research. So the first part of it is to determine your background and your long-term plans. Because in your motivation letter, you are supposed to explain what you did and what you want to become. So if you start from scratch, it will be harder, but if you already have a CV or motivation letter, you can just take them and it will be quite faster. But what I recommend you to do is to make a big table in which you, for example, first write the classes you took. So it can be pathophysiology of neurodegenerative disorders or whatever. And for example, you can also write the lab experiences you got, the reports you wrote, and the most important, your research projects, the internships, and the techniques you learned during them. This is the most important part. What research projects did you do? And you basically will write them in it, and then in the second column you will write why. Why did you like them? Why did you choose these topics? Why did you enjoy them? Why do they make sense in your life? Why do they make sense in the person you want to become? And then in the third column, you will write the outcome. So, for example, the outcome for classes can be that you got excellent grades. It can be that you maybe got the opportunity to write, I don't know, like to make a talk or something like that. So you can mention it. And then the most important outcomes is from the research projects. Were you lucky enough to write a paper, to write 2 papers, to make conferences, to speak in conferences, to present posters? If so, do mention it. It's really important. In the last column, you will basically mention what was cool about these classes, why were you fascinating about these research projects, and you will go in depth in it, and you will put a lot of keywords about all the enthusiasm you got out of it. So you need to define all these things. And the most important is to define why. Why did you enjoy this research project? But first is, why did you choose this project? Why was it relevant for the person you want to become? This is the most important thing. Why? If you decide and are able to define why you did something, your motivation letter will be amazing. And then once you then you are also supposed to put extracurricular activities. This is also really important because it shows that you have a life outside of work and that your studies and your work is not all your life. For me, for example, I do fencing, I play the cello, I have this YouTube channel that takes me some time. And I do mention it in my letters and CV because I think it's important and I think it's something that makes you different. Of course, it can take a few days before you actually define the why. Why did you choose all these things? And then you have to try to link them, like how did the classes you take are correlated and are associated with the internships and research projects you took. How is it related? So for me, my master was in neuroscience, so I always say that I did a master in neuroscience and I did projects in neuroscience in psychiatric disorders. Why did I choose psychiatric disorders? I also mentioned it. And then as my projects are all kind of working on stress and psychiatric disorders in animal models, I can basically write it this way. And it sounds, there is a logical way. There must be a sense, it must be logic why you choose this course, then this project, then this one, then this one. There must be logical and it must show that you are going somewhere, not that you are trying everything out without having a purpose. The second part will be to actually investigate the university and the research labs. Because when you write the motivation letter, you want to write it for one university and you want to show you cannot suit two universities. If you write a motivation letter and you could send it to two universities, it means that it's a bad motivation letter. So you first investigate the university. What does the university offer that makes you want to go there? Do we have good classes? Do we have good opportunities? Can you go to conferences around the world? For example, some universities offer the possibility to go somewhere for €1,000, for example, but other universities don't. So this will make your life different in the long term, that you will be able to go to other places and to visit. So yeah, this is really important. And the most important is to investigate for research groups. For example, if you want to go to Zurich, and because you like the university and so on, look at the research groups. Do they have groups that work in a similar field, in a field that you want to work in? So for me, for example, I want to work in psychiatric disorders, as you understood. So if I would go to Zurich, I would first investigate the groups they have. So I would type Zurich, research groups, psychiatric disorders, depression, or this type of thing, and then I will end up seeing groups. Or in the articles that you read, actually, there is always the writer. So if the writer is from Zurich, then you can search his name in Google and you would find his research group in the lab of Zurich. So find a few labs that you like, a few research projects that would make you enthusiastic about them and that you would enjoy doing. And third, basically you have to link how the university and research group is related to what you did in the past, so to the classes you took and to the research projects you did. Basically, you say, my goal is to boom, boom, boom. Professor from Zurich works in blah, blah, blah. So it will help me to realize my dream. Second, organizing the letter. So this depends a lot on the type of motivation letter that they ask from you. Some universities ask you to respond to a bunch of questions, like 1 page per question. So you basically want 1 page per question. Some universities ask a motivation letter that contains why you like neuroscience, what are your research of interest, and why Bordeaux, for example. So you can divide the letter in 3 parts with 3 headings and write it this way. Now I will focus on the normal standard letter that you're supposed to write for some universities. And remember that in the letter it's important what you write in it, but it's also important how you write it. So I will just give you quickly a few tips. You have to be clear, avoid repetition, don't say several times the same thing because it's useless. Don't spend several sentences saying the same thing. Use a formal language, be as short as possible because they will read a lot, and be original. So I personally divide my letter in 4 paragraphs. The first one is a really short introduction of 3 sentences, more or less, in which I say quickly my background, one of the outcomes I got from it. So for example, I did this master and I really enjoy it, so I got good grades. When I set my long-term goal, I want to become a full professor, to have my research group, and joining the university will help me to accomplish this. The second paragraph, I speak about my background and my motivation. So the first sentence, I explain why I am motivated in working in a certain field. So I really want to work in psychotic disorders because blah blah blah. Why do you want to investigate in your work a certain field? This is what you want to define in your first sentence. Then in the next 9 lines, it can be shorter, I explain what makes me an expert in it. What did I do in the past? What are my background skills that I developed? So for me, as I did a lot of internships, I did 3, one of 6, one of 4, and one of 6 months. I can speak a lot about them. And I also mentioned the outcome I got out of them. So I say I got a paper out of my first project during my master, and I also say that I went to a few conferences. But if you didn't do that many internships, you can mention your classes and the grades you got out of them. I don't, because I don't have enough place to do it, because I prefer to prioritize my lab experience, basically. But then it's up to you what you want to... What did you get the best outcome out, you know? If you got a good outcome from your classes, do mention it. I got a really great outcome from my master, from my research project, so I mention it. What did you do in the past that makes you a good fit for a PhD position? Tell a story about your life. So when I speak about it, I say, I first joined this group to work on psychotic disorders and ways to basically cure it. And I joined this group to investigate the etiology of psychotic disorders and how stress can be transmitted across generations. And in the future, I want to keep doing that. And what I do is I also put a reference in it because I think it's nice. I say, like, for example, many studies have shown that psychotic disorders can be transmitted via stress. And I just put a link and a reference, so it's really nice. For example, I write that maternal infection increases the risk of developing psychotic disorders in the descendants, and I put a reference. I think it's nice because you're in science, so you want to put references because it's what you do, you always cite what you do. Then I conclude in saying that the next step in my career is to join the Zurich University to keep working with internationally known experts, and I cite a few names. And according to the type of letters, you will have to go deeper or not. So if you have to go deeper, you can mention the techniques they use, the research projects that they do, and how it's related to what you want to do. So you always have to relate what they do and what you do. But you don't, if it's a really short letter to a university, don't go really deep in it because it's not the point of it. Because it's not the person that will read it. If it's an open application, then go further explain articles, speak about the project and how you will enjoy it and why you will enjoy it. In the third paragraph, I explain why the university is a good fit with me and why I'm a good fit with the university, why they need me and why I need them. So in the first sentence, I explain my expectations from the PhD. I want to become independent, to develop my ideas and so on. And I say that joining the university will allow me to do that. And then I write a few sentences about what they have that really make me want to go there. So I don't mention research groups because I did it before, but yeah, just say why you like the program. You can also speak about time management, how you organize your time, and yeah. In the last sentence, you should say why you are a good fit together. So you can conclude by saying that thanks to your high grades and being a high achiever, you will be a good fit, for example. And the last paragraph is the conclusion, so kind of say what I am today, I say my biggest goals, and at the last sentence I just say thank you and I write my name. Finally, I will speak about what you should not put in your letter, what you should avoid putting in your letter. First, don't put any cliché. I will put a few examples here. I am highly motivated to study neuroscience. My greatest ambition is to do that. Cliché lacks originality. It shows that you didn't take the time to really go in depth in the university and that you didn't take the time to really go thoroughly about what the university has to offer. Second, avoid plagiarism. If you read in the university website that they offer interdisciplinary training, and there is a big sentence about it, don't copy-paste the sentence in your letter. We will directly see it and you will not be taken because of this. Third, when you read your letter and you see the verb to do, to be, to have, to make, try to remove them, try to change them with other words, because to be is a really basic word and it's not really, it doesn't show that you made a lot of efforts, and it can improve, your letter can improve a lot if you change these words. And make the effort not to only change the word but to totally restructure the sentence. Last but not least, avoid the words such as very, really, and with words such as interesting, fascinating. These words are overused. And the word is saying very interesting. Never write in your letter, this is very interesting. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, press the like button, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and if you want to go further in this, click to this video. Ciao.